Hi everyone! Hi, it's Lisa from Lisa's Paint Parties. I'm here on Wednesday after evening, I should say. And it's almost 6 o'clock, so we'll be starting our weekly live free paint party in a moment. If you can see me, you are where you are supposed to be, so don't click on any other random links or anything that might show up. Those are scammers and they are live tonight. So they're trying to get you to click on links. Do not click those links. If you see me, you are where you're supposed to be. And we will get started just a little bit after 6 in case there's anyone else who will need to get some supplies and whatnot to join us tonight. Perfect. So I do need to kind of keep an eye because I don't want anyone to click on any of these random links. I've already banned and deleted like 20 people, I think, who are trying to put random links on my pages. So if you've seen them, I apologize. I'm trying to delete them as quickly as possible, but it's literally like just me doing this. So it's a little tricky. Hi, Ruth. I'm glad you're joining. You joined last week too, I think. I'm glad you're here. Yay. From Puerto Rico. Oh man, it was snowy, super wintry these last couple of days here. I'm in Ajax, just outside of Toronto, Ontario, and yeah, we had like a nice wintry storm blow through. So I'm sure the weather's much nicer where you're at. Oh, you're in Florida, Jackie. Freezing. It's freezing down there, eh? No way. I always just think it's always warm in Florida. I'm like, it's never freezing there. But I guess that's how I view it. So I'm sure you guys think we all have igloos or something, but you know, it's not the case. No. Okay, cool. Let me just keep an eye on here. Okay, cool. And I think we're good. Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure. Let's see if I can do any other, or if I can block any of these other scammy people so they don't ruin our fun. Again, my concern is just I don't want anyone to be giving any personal information or money or anything random to people who are trying to get you guys to click links. So if you see that as I'm painting and anyone else joins on, just please like report them if you can, and also just let other people know so there's no one who joins up randomly and like, you know, thinks that's where you have to go. If you see me, you're in the right spot, so you're all good to go. Okay, cool. Hi, Charlotte from Minnesota. Very nice. That's great. And Sharon's asking if you've been to Canada in December. Yeah, it's pretty cold. It kind of started. It was like the first hit, and it was like, here's all the snow, and here's all the cold temperatures. It just like turned. I was wearing my like fall jacket right up until that point, and it was like, no, not happening. Hi, Carol. Bonjour. She's in Quebec. That's fantastic. Hi, Ashley from Kentucky. She says she's excited to do a mountain scene, and yeah, I can't wait to do this one too. So I think someone had mentioned putting like a wintry or a snowy spin on it. So I think I'm going to play with that. Of course, at first I'm still going to paint the way it kind of looks, but I think I want to add in some snow, maybe some snow-capped mountains or something. I'm not sure. We'll play with it, and you guys can change it up however you want to as well. Awesome. Hi, Lily and Roberto from California. Nice. Glad you guys are joining. Cold, yeah, it is. Don't be sorry, Ruth. Ruth says it is sunny and warm in Puerto Rico today. Well, you need to enjoy it for all of us who have the cold temperatures here. So you need to like enjoy it extra. Keep us in mind. Okay, so I have my iPad. I'll have the picture available. What I always suggest is if you get the post that I announced the winner, so yesterday, or even the initial post, but there'll be the picture of what we're painting today. So we're painting the mountain scene. It's called Serene. Well, I just named it Serene Mountains. I found the picture online, so there might actually be an actual name by the original artist. So not to step on any toes, I just kind of called it that so we could differentiate the options this week. So this is going to be our version. I'll walk you through how I would go about painting this painting. And if any of you guys have any tips or tricks, or you want to share what's happening, if it's going well, if it's not, definitely write that in the comments, because that's what this is about. It's about us all just getting together and having fun and painting together. I will show you the picture, but what I was going to say with all of that blabbering was I would suggest having the picture available for your reference. I'm going to have it on my iPad and just have it like beside so you can kind of see it as we're going, but it will be a little bit annoying, I think, on this screen. So if you have your own reference, I prefer that for me personally, but I'm a bit of a control freak. So let me bring this up actually for us, you guys. Ooh, not that close. That's a little bit crazy. Okay, the light on here is a little much, but there is the picture we're going to be doing. There we go. So it's going to be like nice, so we're going to do a nice gradient sky. There's a nice like moon kind of in the background there. Huge, huge moon. And then there's some nice mountains, a bit gradient on that too, some trees in the foreground, a nice lake. So again, you can make this your own. You can change up any element you want. This is really just to inspire you and for us all to paint together. So I think that will work out there quite nicely. Hi, Debbie from Michigan. Hi, Trey from Baja, California. Fantastic. Hi, Patty. I'm glad you're joining. Yay. Is Susan with you? It's awesome. Then Paula is here from Illinois. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So in terms of supplies, I always use an 11 by 14 canvas board, more for just convenience and storage sake, to be honest. If you have an actual canvas, that's great. If you have a piece of paper, if you have anything, if you have a rock, it doesn't matter. You can paint on anything you want. Just whatever size canvas you have, you should have in relation to your brush sizes as well. So when I say a large, medium, and small brush, I really just mean in relation to your canvas. So if you're using a tiny one, you definitely don't want a big honking brush like this. You want, like, your big brush is going to be slightly smaller than that. But in my 11 by 14, this is my big brush. I'll have like a medium size, and then I always suggest having a fine point one as well. So just like a 3 size, just to give you some flexibility. And really, I don't have any preferences on which brushes to use. You kind of just feel it out and see what you like, what works best for you. This particular brush is a little bit hard bristled. I have one that's a little bit softer too that I like to use sometimes. It just depends on how things are flowing with the painting, really. And these really thin brushes I really like. I got a pack of 12 of them on Amazon, and they have like a grip, so I really like them. So if you're looking for any like detailed brushes, I would definitely suggest checking that out, or getting one with like, it's almost like a pencil grip. It's really convenient, and it keeps your hand super steady as you're going. So I really like those. But yeah, so that is what I'm using there. I have 2 water containers going, so I have them ready to go on the side, and paper towel, and our paint colors. So predominantly, I always say that we can just use the basic primary colors and then white and black. So that's what we're going to be focused on primarily. However, if you have a pre-mixed orange or a pre-mixed green or brown or whatever else, you can play around with the colors you have. I'll talk to you guys through how to use it with the basic ones, and then you can always add some of the other ones too. Sometimes I do dip into the pre-mixed ones just for sake of convenience and some time, but I'll always walk you through how that should look. Oh, sketchy sketchers. I can't ban those people. If any of you guys can, please feel free to do so. So do not click on those links there. Hi, Tiffany. I work with Tiffany. Yay, I'm glad you're joining. Yay. Yeah, and MD Salam is not someone. Do not click on that link. Hi, Tina. I'm going to see quickly if I can do that on my phone. I'll see if it lets me click that. And if not, then unfortunately it won't. Let me delete. Oh, that's creepy. That's so weird. So yeah, so I don't get those on my phone, those sketchy links. I can't click and get rid of that person. So if any of you guys can, please feel free to do so. It won't let me. Anyways, sorry, I'll stop talking about that now. Okay, we'll just, so you guys just have to put more comments in here so that we get rid of these annoying people. I'm gonna put like, I can't even do anything on here. It's like not letting me add anything else to it. I was trying to put some comments, but nothing. Okay, don't click on those links. Cool. All right, so we have our painting ready to go. We have our canvas, we have our brushes, we have our paint. So whenever we start our painting, we're always going to start with whatever is furthest in the background. So we are going to start with our beautiful gradient sky. This one in particular is a nice yellow and orange. So let's add quite a bit of yellow paint to our palette. Okay, again, I say quite a bit, but I mean in relation again to the canvas size that you're using. And you can always add more as you go. I'm also going to put some white. Joanne, you're having issues with sound? Is it breaking up or is it crackling? What's happening with the sound? Let me know. I wonder if it's my computer. I feel like I need a new computer. It's been giving me some issues. Okay, and I'm going to get a little bit of red as well, just so we can get some orange going. Again, if you have pre-mixed orange, you can go about. So just like in terms of my amounts, I have my yellow, white, and red. Okay? And so what I'm going to start off with is my big brush is what I'm going to start using. Oh, someone else is saying they have issues with sound. Maybe Tiffany, you're going to have to help me. I'll be talking to you tomorrow and you'll let me know what's going on. I wonder if it's being crackly, because I feel like that happened last week a little bit. Maybe I have to talk quieter. Oh, it just stops. I'm not sure what that's about. Okay, well, let's hope that it goes on. It looks like my connections are all pretty decent. Yeah, we'll start painting and let's see how it goes. Okay, hopefully it's not too bad. Okay, so the way we're going to start this is, so the background here, if you look at our paint, our inspiration painting, the background goes until just below halfway on the painting. So we're going to bring down the sky until about just below halfway. That's where I'm looking at, about there. And what I'm going to start with is I'm going to just get water on my biggest brush, and we're just going to wet the canvas, not soak it, just wet it. If you soak it too much, then it's not going to work the way we want it. So you want to just put water and spread it all across your canvas. It doesn't matter how you do it. Like, you can go down, back, forth. Doesn't really matter. Again, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so I tend to be very pattern based, but you don't have to be. Let's just get water, and we're going to bring it all the way till just below halfway of our canvas. Okay. And it's a little hard, obviously. Anyone watching right now, jumping in, is going to be like, I can't see anything on the canvas. And that's fine, it's just water. So you might want to just tilt just to make sure you got everything and it's not soaking. So I brought mine down just about there. That's what we're looking at. Okay. Patty, yellow, white, and a little bit of red, just to make that orange gradient. Or if you have orange already, you could use orange alternatively. Okay. Okay. So now that we have our wash, basically we've washed our canvas down with the paint, oh my gosh, with the water. Now we're going to start putting in some color. Okay. So if we look at the sky here, it's predominantly yellow. It is a little slightly darker at the top of the canvas. It's lighter in the middle, and then it goes gradient into an orange. So we're going to try to emulate this. So we're going to start right off the hop with just getting some yellow. And let's start putting the yellow on your canvas. And the yellow that I'm using is yellow from the dollar store. I think this one is called bright yellow, but you can use, again, any yellow you so desire. If you are painting with a canvas that has actual sides to it, I always suggest painting the sides as you go, particularly when we're doing the background, just so it has some nice color on it. So if you do hang it up, it just looks a bit more continuous. Okay, so I'm just going to get yellow on here. So the reason why we wet down the canvas is because it allows this process of getting the paint on. It makes it a lot faster. And then you have more coverage essentially with less paint. So you can use less paint, more coverage, and as we add more color onto it, it will let the paint stay wet for a bit longer so that it can allow you to blend as well when we get to that point. But I am going to put yellow on like the whole thing we just painted with the water. Okay. You basically just want to make sure the sky goes below wherever you want the sky to be seen. It's going to peak. So the mountain, the lowest part of the mountain will be around there, right? Okay. Okay. And when I'm doing this, I'm putting a very thin layer of yellow on. I'm not using a lot of paint on it because, again, the water will help spread it. And this will allow us to mix in some other colors as well. Oh, good. Tiffany says her sound is good. Okay, that's good. Maybe it's just a particular issue. Ernestine, yes. So all of my painting parties, they're all available on Lisa's Painting Parties YouTube site. So within about 2 or 3 hours after this, I'll pop it on there. You can also watch it on the Facebook site under the videos tab. All the videos are on there, and I don't take them down, so you can watch it whenever you want. All I ask is I love to see your guys' paintings, so if you can like make sure you post that, that'd be fantastic. All right, so now that it's pretty much all yellow, I'm gonna get some white and I'm gonna start to just streak some in the middle. Everything's still really wet, and the yellow's gonna pretty much eat up that white that you put on here, like pretty quickly, but it does make it slight, you'll see it a little bit in there, right? So really you're just kind of making like a lighter yellow just by putting this white paint on top. Okay, and I want it to be a little bit lighter in the center part here of the picture. Okay. I'm also noticing I got a little dry at the corner here. So I'm just going to make sure that my canvas is still pretty wet at the top because I want to add a little droppy drop of red so I can make some orange. And I do wet on wet technique right on the canvas because it's fun. So now when I mix it, it'll already start having a gradient, and I just bring it down into the rest of the color. So I can just bring it down, and then I'm just going to stroke it across just to make it look nice and blended. So yeah, so if you do that, like streak it down like that, and then just like blend it back and forth. So now it's slightly darker at the top here. It gets into like a lighter, and then we're going to make this darker area too, but it is already drying for me anyways. And I want to make sure it doesn't dry too much. Okay, I'm just putting a little bit more yellow in here before it gets into the lighter yellow part. And I do apologize, my lighting is not the best in here, so I hope that you guys can still see it or at least follow along decently enough. I'm working on getting another solution, which involves actually doing electrical in this room. So we'll see when that happens. I don't know. My house is like was built where like none of the bedrooms upstairs has like a light on the ceiling. The outlet, basically like the light switch connects to outlets. So you have to have lamps in the room just to get it working. And pretty much like all the rooms in my house are kind of like that, except like the bathroom. And I don't feel like I want to just paint in the most well-lit, room in my house, which is the bathroom. I don't really want to do that. So in the summer, it didn't really matter because everything was nice and bright. But now it's like, ugh, dark at like 4:30, and like these paint parties, lighting ends up, I rely on all my lamps, and so my apologies. I'll try to work on a solution, but again, I don't foresee that happening for like a while. What I'm doing now as I'm talking to you is I'm just putting a bit more water in this area. I put a little bit more yellow paint too because I didn't want it to be super thin, just kind of wanted to wet it a bit before I do the same thing that I did at the top there. I'm going to get a little bit of red, and I'm just going to pop a bunch of red like that. And now with the same brush, I'm just going to mix it and bring it slowly up into my yellow. I feel like it's a very, I'm going to put more yellow on top of it because I want to make it still a little bit less pink. So I'm using my big brush. Oh, another thing I want to note too is I haven't actually rinsed out or wiped my brush out at all yet. So right now I'm still just using the same brush with the same colors and just going back and forth with colors to get it going. You'll notice that I use the same brush for most of my painting, and I tend not to wash them too much. I don't, it's not like a particular reason why I do that. I find that it just flows that way. But I also don't like my brush to have like a ton of water in it, because then I feel like that then impacts the paint. So yeah. So right now, as you can see, although it looks a little bit, let's see if I bring it, it still looks very dark. But it's a little bit darker on the top, darker at the bottom. It gets a bit yellow and it gets lighter in the middle there. Okay, to kind of match that gradient. And again, you can play with it too. If you want it to be a bit more richer, you can put, get it a little bit darker. And we're gonna have those mountains covering a lot of this too, and the trees, right? So. And so because I'm using a very thin amount of paint and quite a bit of water too, like in this mix, it does dry very quickly. So then it will allow us to move on to like putting in the mountains and everything else pretty quickly. Okay. Awesome. Oh, I forgot to put music on today, so no classical music for us, but that's okay. Okay. So now that I think I'm pretty much done with the background, I do want it to be like maybe slightly lighter in the middle. I don't know. No, I think I'm going to leave it like that. Remember too, when you're painting and you're really close to your painting, it's really easy for you to get too in the weeds about it. So if you're doing it really close and you're not really digging it, I suggest kind of averting your eyes for a bit and like hold it away from you and then take a look, and that will allow you to get a better feel of like how it's actually turning out, because it might be looking better than you actually think it is, or worse. But that would still help in that process. It's good to like stay away. It's weird for me because I'm right beside it almost, but I like to go away. So you'll see me do that sometimes. Okay, cool. So I want to put in the mountains, but this is still very wet, so I'm not going to put the mountains in yet. So I think I'm going to jump down and start blocking in where I want the water to live. And I'm probably going to end up going back and playing with that afterwards once we put in the mountains and whatnot, but that's what I'm going to do. So with this water area, so the water area is, I would say, about what, like 1/5 of the painting, the bottom fifth, more or less. So it's kind of like this area, like right here, more or less. And again, you can alter that too. You can make it bigger if you want. You can make it go all the way across. You can make this painting, alter it however you so desire. This is just our inspiration, right? So with the water, we need blue. Let's get some blue going. I still have some white, so I don't need to add any more of that, which is good. And yeah, I think that's okay like that. All right, so to do the water, I'm going to pretty much follow the same kind of idea as I did up here with this gradient. So I'm going to get a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm just going to wet the canvas, this area here I want the water to live. And you're going to paint the water again further in than you actually want the water to live. So we're going to put things on top of it, obviously, but we want to go a little bit further and a little bit higher than what you would, again, also want the water to be. Just so that everything you paint on top of it will make sense. Okay, so just water like that. Cool. So for this, I think, where do I want to go first? Yeah, let's go with the blue. So I have like a really bright blue. This blue is called Peacock Blue. Again, doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to put in blue. And because it's water, you'll see that the water just kind of spreads quite a bit. And it also like makes it lighter because I'm not using it in its full opaque capacity. And then I'm going to get quite a bit of white and I'm going to throw it on top. I also feel like when I'm looking at my canvas right now, I feel like mine's a little too wet. And the reason why I say that, it's getting a little better as I'm putting more paint on it. I don't know if you can really tell. It's so hard to see. I wish I was there live with you so you could actually see. But it's almost like it's too glistening and it's kind of not soaking in the paint very well. So what I'm going to do to remedy that is I'm going to get some paper towel and I'm just going to blot it just to dry it out a little bit because I did want it to be wet, but I didn't want it to be that wet. Now it looks kind of weird, but it'll look better in a moment. Oh, if I want to use another color for the mountains, do you have any suggestions? Yeah. Honestly, it's really up to you because you can kind of go any which way you want to go with it. I would still probably stick with cooler colors, I think. So I might go with maybe like a purple, like a really deep, and do like a purple gradient. You could even do like a purple with like gray would look kind of cool. I'd probably stick with something like that. You could make them look more realistic and do like a full-on gray as well. So yeah, I think you should just have fun with it. Like whatever's calling to you. You don't make your mountains pink. It will look super cool. Like, have fun. I do tend to like play it safe though, but I think I'm always really impressed when people try something totally different. Okay, so I'm just gonna get some more of this darker blue and just build it up a bit because it's a little bit darker right at the back. I find there's some darkness kind of coming off the sides. I'm going to put in some darker blue on this side here. And I'll just like lightly streak it in. And there's a little bit of this blue, darker blue at the front too. Okay. And I'm going to get the white and I'm just going to put some white in the middle here. So right now I just want to blend it to get kind of this similar color going. My brushes are really long and they're hitting where I have my laptop. It's throwing me off a bit. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so if anyone, I know with the holidays coming up, regular things aren't really happening as per usual. But if anyone is interested in doing like a paint party or anything like that, you're more than welcome to use any of my previous videos. Or if you wanted me to host something like that too, you can definitely private message me and let me know. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about those options. I've had a few groups message, and we had a really great session with some girl guides. Where I was talking them through how to get their painting badge, and we did like a great session on Saturday, and we're going to do another one in a couple of weeks. So I'm definitely open to anything like that. If you guys have any needs or you want something a little bit different for a gathering, definitely reach out, and I'm more than happy to connect because this is like the most fun for me. So what I'm doing as I'm going through, so it's still wet. My brush is pretty clean. And I'm just kind of like pulling essentially and stroking, but as I'm doing that, it's kind of pulling some of the color and it's giving me a bit of texture to the water. So it feels more like there's like almost like little ripples, and it's driving me crazy that my brush is so freaking long, but it keeps hitting it. But it's okay. We'll go with it. That's going to be our music. My brush hitting my computer. So everything's wet on wet, and I'm just lightly touching it with paint. So I'll bring it a bit closer. So hard to see there. So you can kind of see it. It's like there's slightly little lines going on. Slight. I'm still using my big brush to do this. And the reason why I'm using my big brush is because the end's still working like well for me to have the control to get that. But you could also move to use a thinner brush to get more of those little ripples happening as well. Hi, Michael. I'm glad you're joining us from England. That's fantastic. All of us shared our weather. How's your weather over there? We're in snowy. We have Puerto Rico. It's nice and sunny and warm. Is it rainy there? That's always what I think. I think England, and I'm like, oh, it's rainy. Okay, so just play with that until you're happy with it. This does have a bit of like a turquoise color as well, so if that's something that you would want to play with as well, if you have, I do have like a turquoise color in the pack, so I might pop that in. I don't know if I will today. I'm kind of digging playing just with the basic color right now, but again, you can always play with that if you want to, if you have like a brighter color you want to throw in. I'm just going to put a little bit more white. And if you want it to get a bit turquoise, you want to add like a little bit of yellow. I can try that. Let's see what happens. It might turn a bit green. Well, it will, but I might give a bit of a, it's not going to be as bright as that though, because I'm kind of, again, mixing it right on my canvas. So we'll give a bit of a lighter color. Some darker blue back in. Put this white in here. Definitely need to make a very light blue before I went that route. Mixing it on the canvas didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Mine's more like a murky green, but it works out nicely. Flatted. I think I'm going to switch to a thinner brush just to play a little bit. Ah, you have rain. There you go. I guessed correctly. Okay. I'm going to get a thinner brush just to play a little bit more with the ripples in the water, because water and sky are my favorite things. So I'm going to play with it a little bit. And I'll get a lighter blue going first. So I'm just mixing a little bit of blue into some white to try to get like a light blue. So it looks almost white when I don't have it close to the blue. I'm just going to put in some lines where I want it to be a bit lighter. So if you want the color to really stay on, you kind of need to keep going back and putting the color. When you're doing wet on wet, that's what you need to always keep going back and putting more color on the brush, because the paint that's already on the canvas will basically eat up and like incorporate the color that you're adding. So you'll see that I'm kind of going back quite often to add more. When I paint water, I really like to emphasize the ripples in it. So I'm going to add more defining lines and just having it as blended as in the original picture. That's my own preference and style, so you can do that too. Or you can just have it more of a blend, kind of more similar to the way we did the sky, where you just like, it all kind of looks almost like a blur, like there's all nice different colors. But like I said, here I kind of want to have a bit of ripples going on. I'm getting some just darker blue too, and just putting some darker ripples close to the bottom. I tend to make very similar strokes, so I have to really watch myself to do some smaller, some longer, some thicker, some thinner, or else it's very, it's too uniform. And when anything in nature, it shouldn't really be super uniform. It kind of grows more natural than that, right? So I try to keep that in mind, because that's something that I tend to do, and I just call that out because you might be similar. So just watch for that. Put some darker blue on the side because there's some land that kind of comes out a bit, so it's creating a bit of a shadow. I know that land doesn't exist yet because we haven't painted it in yet, but it will. So I'm going to have to stop myself from going too crazy, because I can probably do this water for who knows how long. I love putting in all these little lines and like playing with the color and going back and forth and putting in some more white after and putting in some more blue. So I promise to stop sooner than I want to so we can go on to a different part of the painting. Okay, so that's kind of what I have here. So I've just kind of made it a lot more like ripply in different water, and it's a little bit darker on this side, a little bit lighter. And the water is always something we can go back to and add a little bit more, a little bit less to. What you would like to do before we start painting anything on top of it is you want to get whatever blend you want in the background, you want that to be done. And any of these little lines or any additional shadows that things are going to create, we'll obviously do that afterwards. And you can always add more of those things afterwards. But the main thing is, are you happy with the blend, the background blend that you've created in the water? If the answer is yes, cool, we can move on to another section. If it's no, you want to wait till it dries, and then you can redo it and try something else if it doesn't work out the way you want it the first time. That's the best thing about acrylic paint too, is as soon as once it dries, you can paint right over it. You can change it all up again. So that's the nice thing about it. Yeah, Judy, but you can always watch the paint. The videos are up on the site, so you can watch it whenever it's convenient for you. So you don't have to watch it right in the same moment. Yeah. Mastermind next. I don't know what that means, Michael. What does that mean? Maybe you were referring to something I was saying and I missed what I said. That went with it. Okay. So, next up is we want to get this background mountain. Where is that guy going to live? Again, similar to what Paula had said. So Paula wanted to do a different color for the mountains. You can do that as well. If you want to stick with this kind of vibe, we can. I think I probably will. I might put a little bit of gray with the blue. I don't know yet. I do kind of want to change it up a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see which way we want to go. Okay, so I'm going to get my medium brush. You don't want to get your big fat brush, but medium brush will work nicely. I think this one might be okay. I don't know. These bristles, I don't like these bristles. This one's better, I think. Okay. Cool. All right. So I want to, for this background, so whatever mountain you have in the far background, you want it to be lighter than whatever color you're going to make these front mountains. So if you're going to go with the blue, you're going to do it similar. So a lighter blue and a darker blue. If you're going to do purple, you do the same type of thing. If you want to make a group, whatever colors you want to go with, just make sure the one in the back is a lighter in the same shade as the ones in the front. Okay? So let's stick with this kind of like light blue feeling going on. So I'm going to get blue and mix it into my white. Okay, so I have kind of like a sky kind of blue going on. It's going to be a bit lighter than that, but we'll play with that first and we can always change it up. Okay, so we're going to have this mountain in the background here, and then we're going to have some other mountains come in the foreground, and then there's going to be lots of tree lines here. Okay, so this background mountain, where do we want to place it? So for here, I don't know, okay, let's start. Right, and when you do your mountain, give it some, like, don't make your line like super straight. Don't make it like a weird like triangle. I mean, you could do that if you want to do like, you know, make it a totally different version too. But if you want to make it look more realistic, kind of give it a bit of like bumps, right? Like you don't want it to be super straight. And if you did it straight to begin with, you can always go back in and add a little bit of like a little ridge like that if you want. And then you want to paint it in. And for me, the way I would approach it to start off this painting it in is I just basically will paint in the entire thing. And if you notice my paint color changing a bit, it's because the paint I mixed was very little and I'm blending on the canvas now. So it might get a little bit darker, it might get a little bit lighter, and so I just kind of mix it as I go, because the paint I mixed is already gone, so I'm just going to be adding some more blue and white, and then mixing it in together here. Okay, and I'm going lower than where my mountain is, the front mountain is, so this is lower than wherever your mountains in the foreground are going to be, right? I think I'm about there. Okay. And I noticed that the outline here is a little darker than the interior part of the mountain. So I'm going to try to emulate it and get a little bit darker on this exterior line here. Just line it out a little bit with darker blue or whatever color you're using. If you're using like any other color, then just make it a little bit darker on this outline here. Okay. Okay, I'm noticing it's a little bit lighter here, so I'm going to make it a little lighter. I'm putting some white on my wet paint more in the center just to lighten it up a bit in the center here. So what's important here is if you're using cheap paints like me, what might happen is the quality might affect a little bit when you're layering paint on top of other paint. So what I'm noticing a little bit is the paint I'm putting on top is kind of just peeling away, and I'm able to still see the paint below it. So I'm just trying to be cautious, and I'm looking where I'm using my brush stroke to ensure that I'm not making my mountain opaque for some reason, like coming off. So if you're using cheap paints like I am, just watch for that, because that's, I don't know if expensive paints do that too. I don't have those luxuries, but just watch. It might happen that way. Just watch for that. They're not pulling the other paint off as you go. Okay. and I'm sorry, I'm trying to wash some of the colors here. Purplish. Purple Mountains Majesty. Yeah, that sounds good. I can't wait to see it. Okay, so again, I'm just trying to make it a little darker without pulling up my paint too much. So in our inspiration image, it's very smooth. The actual paint and the contour and the contrast of it. Mine, it's gonna be a little bit rougher because I kind of like it. I want it to have a bit of like the rugged mountain kind of features to it, and I'm kind of liking the way it's looking. Instead of it being like super smooth, I like that it will be a little bit more like choppy and defined. Like, I don't know, kind of like that. Digging it. Trying to keep in mind too that I wanted to put snow on these mountains too, so maybe I won't overboard with this, but we'll see. If I end up really liking the way they look, maybe there won't be any snow on this, I'm not sure. Okay. All right. Kind of digging that. I'll bring it a little bit closer. Oh, it's so freaking dark. Okay, that's a little better. So that's what that mountain looks like in the background right now. Okay. Coolio. Ashley says she had a Laguna. Is Laguna like a shade that you have, Ashley? I find like it's hard. That's the tricky thing I find about using the dollar store paints, is that when something's labeled like Christmas red, it's because the red is like almost pinkish versus pink. So they already have like weird tints to them. And I guess regular colors kind of have that as well. But I find the quality ends up being like, some can be very opaque and some can be really thin. So you kind of like never really know what you're going to get. So you kind of dig the random surprise and you're okay with it. I'm okay with it most of the time. I'm so used to it at this point. Okay, I do notice there's a bit of this mountain that kind of lives behind the trees too. I think I need to put that in too. Okay, so let's put that guy in too. Okay, I need more blue. That's what I'm doing. Excuse me. Okay, let's get some more blue going in my white. Okay, so I got a nice lighter shade. Okay, so in this other one, it doesn't seem as tall. It looks like it comes up. Okay, so let's just pop it in. Cool. And again, I'm gonna just color it in. I still want to give it love like we gave love to that other one, even though the trees are going to cover it, but just in case we see it, I want to make sure it still looks cool. I'm also trying to get the sides too, because this mountain's going off the side a little bit, so I want to make sure I see it a bit there too. Okay, so I'm just going to get my darker blue a bit, and let's put a bit of a line here too. Okay, just want to look mountainy. Went through my white super quickly there. Okay. I always put little amounts of paint and then I just keep adding as I go because, again, the paint will dry pretty quickly. And also the consistency changes as it's exposed to the air. So I want to keep the integrity of it. So that's the reason why I use a little bit on my palette and then I just re-apply as necessary. And that's what I would suggest too. I saw a little bit of yellow on that guy, so I'm just fixing it a bit. Okay, okay. Okay, and I'm not going to worry about this guy, even though I am kind of worrying about this guy, but I'm not going to because we're going to cover it with trees. With trees in front of it. Although I can't stop touching it. Okay, stop touching it. All right, I'm going to get a little bit of black onto my palette too. Now, for those of you who are new to painting, black is super powerful. So when we want to make our blue a little bit darker, you need whatever you think you need of black, add like a quarter of it. That's a good way to go. And just always keep putting like that amount. If you want to keep making it darker, just always put like a quarter of whatever you think. Because it takes over very fast, okay? So this is already pretty dry. I think dry enough for me to put my other mountain in front of it. Just trying to check. Yeah, it's pretty dry, so that's good. Okay, cool. So I think I'm going to start off. What's my regular blue? No, I'm going to put a little dot of black into my blue. Okay. I'm going to start like that, and then we'll see. And it looks kind of grayish, but that work. Okay. So now let's plot in where we want these front mountains to go. So okay. So this one's going to come over, and this paint is definitely still wet, but that's okay. We'll just, okay. So now let's build in these ones here. So I've put a little bit of black into my blue. Okay, so let's just fill in these areas. And you'll notice again, it's darker on the top and it gets a little bit lighter as we get further down. Which is great because then we can see that that tree line kick in really beautifully. Okay, so with this, we are going to bring it down. So now I'm just using, now as I get further down, I'm just trying to use my regular blue instead of that mix with that little bit of black, just to get it a little bit lighter. I'm going to use paper towel just to clean off the excess paint with the brush. I want to get some of that black off of it because before I go into making my lighter color, otherwise it's going to just be like a light gray. And I'm going to try my best to get it to be just like a little bit of light blue happening. So now my brush that I've wiped off, I'm just going to get some blue and some white. Make like a lighter blue. It's going to look kind of weird to start, I think. So I'm just going to start popping that in my canvas where I haven't actually painted yet. Because because I want to keep the integrity of that light color happening. Okay, and I'm not going to go down to where my water is because I'm going to put that tree line in anyway, so. Okay, and then now, let's sweep this color into what we just created. There we go. So a lighter color. Bring it in because everything's still wet. I'm just going to push that into the darker color. So the way I'm doing it, as I'm moving the paint in, I'm noticing that as I get closer to the darker area, I'm lightening my brush pressure because I don't want it to have to get too light in there, but I do want the blend to still happen. I don't know if that helps. Hopefully that made sense and that helps a bit. Trying to talk through. Sometimes I'm doing things I don't realize that I'm doing it, so I just want to try to articulate as best as I can, like my thought process with you, so you can follow along. Okay, I'm gonna just get some of this bright blue and stick it back in here. Some mid-range. And right now I'm digging kind of this kind of like X kind of stroke. I feel like that's blending it well for me, and it feels like rocky to me. Whether it does at the end, I'm not exactly sure. Again, I'm going definitely less smooth as in our inspiration image, and I'm doing my own kind of paint brush techniques as I go on. So I encourage you to do the same. So I'm just putting in a little bit of white streaks in here too. Okay, cool. I think I'm digging that right now. No, too glary. There, you can see it a little bit that way. Okay. Kind of digging that. I feel like this is so light now, this one in the background. Almost too light. I'm gonna darken that guy up a bit. Ooh, I'm scared to do that now. But I want to. Okay, I'm gonna try to darken him up. I feel like I just went a little too light in here. Close without ruining my other line I just made for that other mountain. Yeah, it's a little better. I think that's nicer, a bit darker. Yeah, I like that better. I didn't realize how light I had went until I put that other mountain on top of it, and then like kind of looked away and I was showing you guys, and I was like, oof, yeah, I needed a bit darker. So again, it's good to always look away from your painting. I might still want to go, no, we'll leave it like that for now, and I might still make it a bit darker afterwards. We'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm gonna clean off that brush. I don't know if I'm going to use this one for my tree line or not. Not sure yet. And it's still still a little wet. I think we could probably play with that tree line now. Okay. How's everyone doing? Hope you guys are doing well. It's been about an hour or so, and we're doing really good. So we have our sky, we have our water, we have our mountains. So the next few things we're going to be doing are we're going to put our tree line into the background. We're going to put in our moon shape that lives here, and we're going to be putting in our trees. And there's some there's the trees, and then there's some kind of greenery that's in the front. That's optional. If you just want to stick with the trees, do it. If you want to do the trees first and then decide if you want to play with that, it's really up to you. Again, you can do it however you so want. I'm going to start putting the trees in and decide if I want to do that greenery thing there. I'm also thinking too, if I want to make mine more of a wintry picture, I might have the big evergreen trees in the background, and then I'm thinking maybe I might make this more of a piece of land and just have it a little bit more sparse, as if the leaves had dropped, and then maybe add some snow. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. However, what I would suggest for this element here, think about if you have something that's round that you would want to use as a stencil, just to make sure you have a nice round shape. I do tend to go freehand a lot. But whenever it's a shape kind of like this, where it's very prominent, very big, and very round, if I do a freehand and it doesn't turn out, I tend to think it looks kind of silly. So if you have something that you can use, or start thinking about it as we go on. We're going to do the tree line, and then I think we're going to go and do that circle. So think about what you would want, maybe a Tupperware lid or a mug or something. Maybe I should finish my coffee quickly so I can use the bottom of my mug. Yeah, we're going to do the tree line next step. Okay. So, for all these lovely trees that live here, so in this painting, it looks like they just use a very, very, very dark blue for it. So they just have even a darker version, almost kind of what they used for the top here. Almost darker than that, really. Or we could use black as well. So we could do a dark blue, or we could use black. I think I'm going to do, because this is almost like a black that I made here, so I might stick with that. So I'm going to use a thinner brush, if not my thinnest brush. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Let's start with that root. Okay. Let's play with this one. Okay. So I'm going to mix black into my blue. Whenever I say black and blue, I think of the Backstreet Boys album, the Black and Blue album. I was a big Backstreet Boys fan. I still am, so. But Black and Blue is my favorite album. And now you guys all know that. Okay, so I have a really dark blue going on. It's very gray. And this blue obviously has some white elements in it. That's okay. Okay. If I want to make it darker after, I always can. Okay. So, really, we're going to just start. So, put in the line of wherever you want this land to live. So, don't look how that's going. Okay. This brush I'm not happy with. Okay. I need to switch my brush. I can't use this one yet. Okay, I'm going to go back to my medium brush just to get some coverage, and then I'll use this one for the detail. I'm not liking it. There you go. Ah, it's better. Okay, so let's pop in wherever you want that land to live. Okay. Just gonna have this come out a little bit. Maybe it's going to jut out a bit here, actually. Yeah, I want the line to come out a little bit more here. Yeah, like that. Okay, so that's kind of like the base for your land. Now I'm going to use my thinner brush and make some trees going on. Make some trees happening. Thinner brush is not cutting it for the coverage, that's for sure. Okay, so let's get this thinner brush back in play. Okay. Okay, and so really we're just gonna make little lines essentially, and some are gonna be bigger than others. Okay, and that's your trees. And you can go more detail if you so desire, like if you want to do a little bit more, you can, but really they're in the background, so we just have you can't really see them very well. So you don't need to stress too much about what they look like. You can just kind of make little lines. I feel like this brush is making almost like a stamp pattern, so all of them look very similar. And in some areas I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker. And again, don't feel weird about switching up your brushes like I did too, right? So if you're liking the lines it's making, or if you're feeling like it's too uniform, swap out with another brush that you have and see if maybe that brush will give you a bit of a different feel for the trees. And you might like that more, or I might just add to it. I am going and I'm putting more black, to be honest, because I don't really like the, I want it to be like a shadow, like I can't really, or a silhouette I should say, sorry, not a shadow, it should be like a silhouette. I'm just going to clean up some of the bottom lines like that, so you can't really see where these trees start. Yeah, now something I did which I don't really like too much is when I created that land, I made it very straight again. So again, I would suggest not making it super straight. You want to have it so it's, you know, a little bit more like proper land. So it kind of has like bumps and grooves and I don't know, other things going on. Okay. I do want some of them to have like a little bit of I feel like there's branches, so I'm kind of just doing a couple of little back and forth lines so they're not just like empty trunks. They have like a little bit going on. Oh, thank you, Bonnie. I'm glad you joined. Yeah, of course, 90s girl. I'm sure you know. You understand me. Hope you're doing well too. I realized too, I did that spooky cat of yours, and I don't think I shared it. I realized after, I was like, oh shoot. But after I had done it, I was so tired. Our time difference throws us off a bit, or me off a bit, to be able to join yours. All right. Okay, so I think I'm going to keep it like that, because again, this is also something that I'm going to keep going and going and going and going. So that's my tree line. It's all kind of crazy. Has different shapes going on. Don't worry, Ashley. Like, honestly, when I look closely at mine too, I'm kind of like, ugh, kind of weird. But don't worry. Don't worry. Do the best you can. And again, if you really, really hate it and you just are like, oh, I can't stand it, wait till it dries fully and you can redo it. It sounds kind of crazy, but you can. You could paint right over it. You can make kind of water, or you can make it back into the mountain and you can do it again. It'll take a bit of more time, but it's totally doable if you want to touch it up or redo it, okay? Don't feel weird about it at all. All right, cool. So, did I finish my coffee in time? I did. Oh yeah, I also have my water bottle. That'll probably be better. All right, let me just make sure coffee doesn't spill all over my canvas, but I feel like it's almost like a great size. Yeah, you know what? I'm totally using those. Okay. That's like a perfect size for there. Okay, so for our moon image, I think I will use a pencil. And ideally, I would suggest do this on a flat surface. Again, I'm going to do this here for the sake of showmanship, I guess. Already moved a little bit too much. Okay. There. So I just traced my coffee cup and a nice like kind of semicircle, no, almost a full circle right there. I know, Bonnie, there's always so much that I know I'm sure we both want to do, and this time just slips away. So I find I'm like, okay, like I have a full-time job, and my full-time job, I love it. I work in marketing, and I have a great team of people, and it's very flexible, and it's fantastic. I love it so much, and it gives me a lot of flexibility to do a lot of things with my time. But I still feel like I don't have enough time, and I can't even imagine how I used to do it when I used to work in retail. I used to be a retail manager, so I'd be like in a retail store for 40 hours a week or more. I don't even know how I had time to do anything else besides being like there and then being mentally like involved in my job all the time after. So now that I have this flex and such a great environment, and I still feel that way, I don't even know. I don't know how anyone does it. It's crazy. It's like I feel like I never have time to do everything I want to do. But yeah. Oh, good job, Ashley. Yeah. Bottom of a red solo cup would work too. Yeah. Basically, just in relation to your painting size, if you're doing an 11 by 14 kind of size like me, something like that would work well. Okay, so I'm going to go with white. And I'm going to outline that pencil line that I just drew on my canvas because I want to cover up the pencil line. So let's get white and cover up your pencil line. I'm using my really thin brush, which gives me nice thin lines, but does not hold much paint, so that I'm constantly having to go dip it, which I guess makes sense considering how thin of a brush it is. I'm just trying to keep it pretty thick over my pencil line because I want to cover it up. But I might have to go back over it after it dries and put a little bit more white paint on top because I just don't want to see that gray line. All right, so you can kind of do whatever you want with this. Like if you want it to be really thin, you can kind of keep it the way it is. You could have made like a crescent moon. You can change up the shape. You can do what you like to do. If you want to get kind of this effect going, what we want to do is we want to continue to pull in the white. So I'm going to continue to put in pure white and build it into the center. And then we're going to end up adding some yellow to brighten it afterwards. So we still need to put a lot more white in here. I should just change my brush at this point, but I'm going to stick with my thin brush for now because I'm stubborn. No, this is silly. I need to change to like a thicker brush. Okay, I had to go back to like one of my, that one should be better. This brush has some tinge of color in it. There we go. Change my brush again. That one is not giving me what I want. Okay, there we go. Third time's the charm. Yes, this is what I want. Okay, so it's a bit of a medium size. Oh, don't go away, painting. Inspiration image, come back to me. Okay, so I'm gonna have white. So I'm keeping it a little thinner as I get to the bottom here, and I'm making it a bit thicker. So I'm kind of making a crescent, essentially. And then upside down crescent. Okay. I'm going to get a bit of yellow, and I'm going to put the yellow just outside of the white that I just did, and then I'm going to pull it into the white and mix it. So I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to put yellow on the outside here, and then I'm going to pull it in. It dried really fast. There we go. I'm going to pull it into the white. Okay. And I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put white on the white, and I'm going to bring it into the yellow in this curve. Okay. It's getting a little bit of water, and if you add water to it, it will blend it a little bit easier. But you want to be cautious as well, because sometimes the water can just blend like everything, or can thin it out a little bit too much. So you always want to use less than what you think. You can always add more to it, right? So okay. So I'm noticing some of my pencil line there, so I'm going to want to touch that up a little bit. But I think overall, I'm pretty happy with it. And I think I need to not touch it anymore for fear of messing it up. But really, I'm just going to wait till it dries, and then maybe I might touch it up at that point. So I'll bring it a little bit closer. So that's how that looks there. I really like it. I think it looks cool. Aw, thank you, Bonnie. Oh yeah, it is a process, that's for sure. Okay. Cool. So, next up, we have to do some trees and decide if we want to do this kind of brushy thing or if we just want to put some trees in here. And I'm kind of thinking, no, let's just get our trees going. Yeah, let's do our trees. I always want to like play with it a bit more, but let's just do our trees. Okay, so these trees are like a very dark green, or you could use black. So I think I'm going to go with black, and then I might add some more color on it. So I'll do kind of it as like a silhouette, and then I'm going to add to it. That's how I'm going to approach it. I think that's going to be what I prefer. Now, I want to use a thin brush, but I want one that I have control. I don't know if this is a little bit too thin. No, we're going to use my thinnest for now and see. Okay. So with my thin brush, I'm just going to put a little bit of water on it. I'm going to get my black paint. And I'm just adding a little bit of water to my black paint just to make it almost like ink, essentially. So a little bit of a thinner consistency, just so I can plot out smoothly where I want my trees to live. So I want to do this big, huge honkin' tree. So this huge honkin' tree is going to end about there, and it's going to come down. Talk about smooth. That is not a smooth line, but that's okay, because we're going to build in more things to it. And again, when you're using a thin brush, the paint disappears a lot faster on a thin brush, because there's not much bristles to hold it. Yep, so let me just continue to build this trunk out. A nice, stable trunk that we're going to build from. Okay, so that's that one. Okay. Okay. And then we have, so that one's good there. And then we have another one that kind of juts out this way. And I'm going to make this one jut out a little bit more on an angle than the original image. So basically right now you want to plot in where you want your trunks to be. And there's no right way or wrong way to do this, and you can change it up. If you want to put a tree on this side, put a tree on this side. Again, just make sure you put some land at the bottom, so whatever. Or it might just be sticking out. Maybe there's land we can't see, right? So have fun with it, and now just put in some of your trunks. Where are these trees going to live? How many do you want? Okay. And that's another thing too. So these are all like kind of evergreen, like really nice bushy, maybe pine trees or some kind of giant, beautiful trees. But you can change that up. If you want it to be a different type of tree, you can do that as well. It doesn't have to be the same ones that we see here. Another one that's a little bit lower. There we go. Cool. Okay, so there we go. We've got our trunks in place for the most part. Okay. Okay. And so we're going to start building up the branches of the tree. So as you can see, it's small at the top and they get bigger as they come out. But when I say bigger, they do kind of stay kind of very similar. It gets a little fatter at the bottom, right? But they don't go like crazy. They do stay very like rigid, right? And at the top, they go up, like the branches go upwards. And as they come down, they kind of go more to the sides. So just look and see. Let's start with the top part. Let's do those first. And again, this is the feeling and the impression of the tree. So you can change it totally up and do whatever you want. If you want to make it similar. So we want to, so up here, we want to have little ones that kind of come up, right? And then as we come slightly down, they're going to stick out more to the side. Okay? Okay. It also gets thicker in the middle, so we have more foliage that kind of stays in the middle. And we still have ones that come out, but then maybe we don't have as much that comes out. Right? So there will be a bit more of a gap between the ones that come out here to the next one that comes out there. Okay, so again, let's build out, make it a little thicker on this guy here. Just kind of doing little crisscrosses just to build out the thickness of the trunk here. Try not to do what I do, which is put your hand on your wet paint. But if you do, oh well, we can just fix it up afterwards. No big deal. You're with the right person, because I do that often. So I will help you fix it up if it happens to you. Okay. So what I do want is I want my lines to be very opaque. So I do want nice, strong branches. So if you're getting, if the paint's kind of coming off your brush and then you're seeing all of the canvas, I would try to get more paint on your brush, and maybe you need to reapply the paint on your brush before you do more strokes. So I think they should be more full. That's just my preference. But again, if you are liking the way it looks, then that's totally fine too. So I'll put it further out. Okay, I think this needs to be a little thicker in the trunk area. All right, so that's what I got so far. Ooh, ooh, there we go. So basically, like I said, it's just strokes, and I'm just making little strokes, and a lot of them close to the trunk, and I'm making them wide, like thicker as we go down on the trunk. So the trunk's thicker at the bottom, right? And then I'm just bringing out the branches, like some swoops, and then adding a little bit more and leaving some gaps between as well. So if any of you guys have like a fake Christmas tree, like I do, you know, when you build your Christmas tree, you have like the bottom part, then you put the other rod inside, and then the branches are all individual and they swoop out. So they all have like their own place, and there's gaps in between. And then you have to like move the leaves around to make them full. So because we want those gaps to be in place to look more natural. And so you can see your background, because your background that you painted is so pretty. We want to see that come through. Come back, painting. There we go. So it's a thin brush, and you just want to have little strokes. I would say some of my branches actually are a little bit too like happy. Some of them should be a little bit more straight down and then come out a little bit. But that's what I went with, so that's my tree. So I hope that helped, Rula. Just like a lot of little strokes. We're going to do another tree, so I'll walk through it again. Okay. Oh, it's 12:30 there in England. Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely want to see yours, Michael. Thanks for joining for a bit. That was really great. Actually, you need a lot of practice on your trees and different paintbrush. Yeah. I mean, paintbrush is really key. Like, you have to have you have to feel good about it, and you have to feel like you have good control. And I know part of it is like, obviously, like you as a user, like I need to be better at certain things. But the tool is really important. If you don't have a good like vibe with it, I don't like it as much. It doesn't work. It doesn't work very well. Okay, let's do this tree here together. So again, at the top, this tree is actually very sparse. So I'm just gonna put a few, literally like 2 little lines there, maybe a little bit more, like that. So now it just has like, you know, like it looks like like a hand. It looks like a hand. I don't know. That's a weird thing to say. Anyways, okay, and then I'm just gonna have like maybe another line come here because it's pretty sparse here. Another one goes like that. So again, just like small little strokes. They kind of still go upwards. There's some branch that kind of comes down this way, like this. Okay, so then a little bit there. Okay, and then put a little bit, little lines close to the trunk, and then let's swoop it out. Let's have this one come this way, like that. See, and then we're just gonna bring it out. So we're just gonna put like little lines that way. And some more close to the trunk, like little strokes back and forth close to the trunk, just to build up that trunk a bit. And then now let's bring out some lines that are a little thicker, that kind of swoop out more. So, whoop, whoop, whoop. Sound effects help, so feel free to go whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, and again, I'm going to just put some more little lines close to my trunk, just to build it out a bit more. Just make it look like thicker, that there's a bunch of stuff we can't really see. And then we're gonna like swoop it out. Just put some bigger swoop, have a swoop, and then just putting a little bit more. And I'm just making like smaller lines. So some of them swoop out longer, and then some just are a little bit shorter. Some are closer to the trunk, and some will swoop out a bit more. Okay, I want to build it up a little bit more in the center. So now in the center here, I do want to make this a little bit darker, especially since I don't really have a background going on there. I mean, I still think I'm going to put like a bush thing or something in front here, but I want to cover up my background. Let's just cover it up like that. Okay, so let me show that one closer up. Okay, so that's how that one looks there. Okay. Okay, and then again, so we're going to do the same thing for the last two trees there. If you put more trees in, then you just continue doing this for as many trees as you have. Okay, so let's do this one back here then. So this one is going to go a little line, little dot. This one's further away. I'm just going to bring out some lines out. Okay, just get more paint on my brush. I'm going to start a little bit lower here. See a bit more of the, bit more sparse, this guy. This guy's a little more sparse than the other ones. I do want this trunk to be a little fuller. Okay. This is nature, so some of the branches could be really wide and big, and some could be a little bit smaller, and that's okay. So some of them could go a little bit further out, some could be closer, right? It doesn't really matter. Apparently this tree grew out of the water right now. Need to put some land where this tree came from. We'll put that in a little bit later, but there we go. That one's good. And then we just have this tree here to do. So if you're doing a tree that goes off the page, just keep in mind that when you paint, don't just stop your stroke like right at the end of the page. You need the stroke to look like it's continuing on. And that can be a little tricky because you still want to have like life in the tree beyond the borders of your canvas. Okay, so let's do a few like thin lines. If I go up, like that, and there's some that kind of go out like this. And it's even tricky for me, so I'm gonna try to bring it around so it doesn't look weird. Although now I might look even weirder. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to thicken this up too. Thicken up this. And I'm just going to bring out some. I mean, this is pretty. It's tricky on this side because it's all pretty much black, so I'm just going to do that. There we go. Okay. Awesome. So I think that looks good like that. Awesome. Hi, Peggy. Thanks for joining. All right. So there we go. So there are the 4 trees. Okay. And they're living nicely right there. So what we need to put in is, well, still, you know, it depends how much more you want to go with it too, but we need to fill in obviously this gap here because that looks very strange. So we need to put in like some kind of like bushy greenery, or we can put in some land or a big rock or something to get this kind of covered and complete. And then we can decide if we want to add and make this a bit more wintry. So a couple of options could be, for the winteriness, we could put some snow on some of the trees so we can see some white on it. We can put some snow on, like, we can cap some of these mountains with a bit of snow as well. And we can even put some snow as if it's like it was a bit snowy that day. It'd be kind of weird, I guess, because just settling, but again, it's our world. We can make it happen. We can make it do whatever we want it to do. So if we want it to be snowing, we can do that. If we want to put a boat in the middle of the water, we can do that. If we want it to be like, oh, why would it be snowing and the water's, well, I guess the water can still, doesn't have to freeze if it's snowing, so it's fine. We can keep it the way it is. Or we can make it more ice. Whatever we want. Okay, cool. So let's see about this guy here. So I think all right, let's go and just put in like a nice big greenery type bush here. I feel like that might be weird though. I guess it could just be something green that, you know, whatever. It's gonna be some kind of weird evergreen bush, but I don't know my plants that well, so we'll see what happens here. All right, I need a little bit more blue. So I'm gonna mix some blue and some yellow to get green. And then if you have pre-mixed green, you can use that alternately. And then you can always, then we're gonna put some black too to darken it up a bit too. So blue and yellow, and then now let's just get this color on here. So I'm using my big brush just to slap this color and slap this bush into existence. Weird thing to say. Okay. I need more. Already used up all of my yellow and that little bit. Okay, there we go. My trees are still a little bit wet, but that's okay because I want some black to get into this bush thing that I'm making. See, now I just kind of grab some of that black from there and I'm just bringing it back down into the green that I already put on here. Okay. Nice. I'm going to get a little bit more black on my brush, and I want this to be darker. So if anyone joined me for the tulip painting a couple weeks ago, we did kind of similar to get like a nice coverage on things, and I called it like that old school, like kind of like 90s, 2000 wall that everyone had, which is like a sponge technique. That's kind of what we're doing here. Doing a sponge technique. I thought was the coolest thing. All the adults that had it, I was like, whoa, they are super cool. A little bit of some black here. So I want you to just sponge it in, play with it. We want to have some darkness and light going on. So we want some of this lighter green color to happen. I want some of this and I'm just going in and putting a bit of like yellow. So like lighten up some of the areas a bit. And it's all wet on wet, so this is where you're going to get the most blending happening, and it's still all wet. It's not black going on. I blended out my black really quickly. I only want this bottom part to have more black in it. Okay. Cool. I'll show you a little bit closer what's going on there. Hopefully without, it's super glary. Yeah, it's hard to see. Alright, well, I think that's as best as we're getting. This kind of weird angle. Oh, there we go, that's a little better. So you can kind of see there's like different blends going on. Okay. Okay, and that gives us like a nice base to play off of. You can, if you like it like that, you can leave it like that. That's totally cool. I'm gonna go in with like a bit of one of my thinner brushes just to add a little bit more detail. It is in the foreground, so we want it to have a little bit more detail, I think. Even if you did want to add like snow to it or do something different, we still wanted to have a little bit more detail, I think. Again, it's up to you. If you don't want detail on it, you don't need to do it. You can do whatever you want. Okay. I'm going to get some more of that green that I made with the yellow and the blue. Again, if you have a pre-mixed green color, go for it. You can use that, no problemo. I'm just going to put kind of the exact same thing I just did, only I'm using a smaller brush, so I'm getting a little bit more detail. Now it just has like little, feels more like little leaves and stuff. And when you do this, you want to make sure you're moving your brush. Like, you don't want it just to be like a stamp. And I'm just kind of going with my mood. Like, wherever I want to add a little bit of this, I'm adding it. There's not really a particular rhyme or reason. A little bit of black too. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I want it to be a little bit more green, actually. I do want it to be darker in this area. I keep bringing in so much lighter colors into this area, and I want it to stay black. All right, cool. Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Okay, so I'll just bring it, I'll see if you guys can see. So I just put a little bit more with the thinner brush, so it just has a bit more detail with thinner brush. That's basically it. But it's still like a big blur of like greenery that happened. And so you can add more to that if you want to. Again, if you add, you know, little patches of lighter colors, that's how you'll have like the sunlight kind of coming in more, so you can do that a bit. I think I still want to do a little bit more of that, to be honest. I'm like, oh, I'm done. I do this every time. Oh, I think I'm done. No, I'm not done. I'm going to add a little bit more. Black and in here in this area. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. So if we want to make it a little bit more wintry, we can get some white and we can add some snow to our trees here. So let's do that a little bit. So it's what, 7:48, not too shabby. Try and keep it like a 2-hour kind of flow. And so we can add a little bit of snow to some of the branches here. So let's add. And you can just basically choose some of these. You can just add. Some will be more laden with snow than others. You guys can see that. I keep putting my hand in that paint. So I'm just adding a little bit of white to make it more wintry. Okay. Okay. And we can add a little bit here too. So let's add a little bit of snow on our mountaintops. Like so. Just putting white basically. All right, got some mountains and snow going on. Okay, and this guy's gonna have some too, actually. Okay. It doesn't have to be like everywhere. It doesn't have to be perfect, because again, the snow can hit certain spots, and maybe it doesn't hit on other spots. Could have already, the sun could have already melted it. Okay. I'm just gonna add it like that. I think that's good. All right, cool. And I think too, I want to add a little bit of a shadow or reflection, I should say, in the water with some of that that's happening there. So I want to get some blue and some black. But I wet it down quite a bit, so I'm just going to bring this and I'm just going to use water to blend it to the shoreline. And into the actual water that we made. I think that's better. Okay, cool. I'm going to do the same here too, actually. A little bit here too. A bit of the foreground. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's. And then maybe we put a little bit of the tree reflections in the water here. I'm just going to bring out a few little lines that come out. It'll look like some of the trees. Yeah, that's cool. All right, so there we go. So that is how I've winterized it. So I've put some snow on the mountains. I'll put some snow on my trees and on this bushy tree thing, bush that I have in the foreground. And then I just added some more shadow reflection into the water of the tree line that's there. And I think that's a wrap. I kind of want to put in like snow falling. I don't know. I kind of want to do that too. Maybe I'll do that. It seems strange because it's like so bright that I feel like it's weird with like a snowfall. But you know what? I'm going to do it. And if it turns out good and you want to do it too, do it. If it turns out bad and you're like, ooh, Lisa, you made a mistake, then you know not to do it. So either way, you win. All right, let's get some white. And then go boop, 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 boop. So I'm just putting like little dots to make like snow. You can also potentially splatter too if you wanted to. I don't really want to do the splatter technique. Hmm? These snowflakes are nice and big and puffy, and they're the really nice ones. They're my favorite ones when it snows. Oh yeah, cool. I'm happy with that. I like that a lot. Here we go. So there, all my snowflakes falling all over my beautiful scenery, my serene winter scene. Very happy with that. So again, if you are done like I am, make sure you sign your painting. So I'm just going to get some paint on my brush and sign it. Use the red, so I'll stand out a little bit. There we go. Just a little bit. There we go. Cool. Awesome. So, hope everyone enjoyed our paint session tonight. Again, if you did, or if you know anyone else who might like it, please let them know about Lisa's painting parties. Like and follow the page. You can also like me on YouTube as well, and subscribe and check out the sessions. All I have there really right now are just the same sessions I have on the Facebook page. So it's just the same sessions you see here would be on YouTube. But yeah, so everything's there and here. And if you have any questions or if you have any ideas for future paint parties, feel free to reach out to me. I always love seeing different suggestions. Many people have recommended different paintings in the past. And people have really liked that, so feel free to send some options there. If you're looking for someone to host any type of party or any type of virtual session, please reach out and let me know. I'd be happy to talk with you about that and do something like that for a private gathering. Besides that, on Saturday there'll be 3 more options for you to vote for. We're getting into the Christmas and the holiday spirit, so there'll be more along those lines. Yeah, I'll see you next Wednesday. The winner will be announced on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday we'll paint again live right here. Again, thank you so much for joining. It's Lisa's Painting Parties. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.